Having this chapter released on Friday, releasing side by side with Resident Evil the final chapter, seems like a horrible nightmare. We have gone through many moments that are hard to believe that it really happened. For Fairy Tail, there's some hidden guarantee contract that Erza will bring unimaginable sequences of one that break the boundary. That all said, this chapter is unfortunately no exception. Truthfully, I don't find myself hating this chapter a lot, but I do find it to be questionable and disappointing. Have there been none of the two pros, this could have been pretty bad all in all. Regardless, it's the worst chapter of the year so far, and perhaps remains that way. Not all are bad. I do find the flashback touching in a way, mainly because of the visual. Even so, it was carried by its sequences entirely. Irene actually had a hard time to enchant herself to Erza because she loved her. There is a convincing, sincere feeling by looking at her breakdown despite of her going mad. We can argue about the overall later, but I do think the flashback is a neat moment. There are really good shots of the visual. It does have that strong, impactful feeling, including destroying the meteorite. There are plenty of really good panels of his action set pieces. It's flashy to the eyes of how cool they came out. If you focus on the visual alone, you can appreciate its presentation. It does have some weights in them. It's like we are closing in to the end of an epic battle that has tons of hype. All in all, it's pretty solid throughout the chapter. The chapter falls under the similar path of other series, say Naruto or Bleach, where you look at the visual only and not know the background. You'll think, wow, that was so damn cool. However, whether you either take time after seeing it or learn the background, you begin to think, that was pretty dumb. The chapter standalone is not entirely bad, but in an overall package, it's a different story. In the end, I didn't like it. To begin with, Erza taking down the meteorite looks cool, but pretty ridiculous, especially she only has one arm and all of the other parts are broken. I can't accept the fact she just destroyed it, but then Mashima decided to have her to head on attack Irene in her dragon form without second thought. Thankfully, Wendy wakes up on time and enchants her sword to be powerful enough to take down a dragon. Maybe not entirely, but good enough for Irene to go back to human form, which I was under the impression that she can, since that was Zera's magic that put her in human form until she breaks it. I guess she can go back and forth if she wants. I know the logic is that Wendy did a good amount of help, but it doesn't excuse Erza and her possible breaking laws of physics attack on Irene. I once stated Dragon's hype is still kept because no one should be taken down quite easily. It turns out that I have to be proven wrong because she's Erza. Basically, she took down two birds with one slash. Hype of Irene and Dragon. It's funny because I would have been fine with Arcanugia to show up and kill her. The chapter is like watching your joy decreasing or anger rising with each passing pages. It's unintentional comical to see Erza continue to fight with her head against Irene like Mashima knows it frustrates the fans. It's like there's no stopping her to lie down. I get the idea behind it is supposed to be encouraging, but not only is done by a character that has worn out of his uses, but it's done in an observed manner, which brings to another and perhaps the main problem, the climax execution. I like the flashback with its contents and it completes the storytelling of Irene's backstory. However, lining up to the climax doesn't hold well. Irene takes her life with her own hands because she doesn't want to kill Erza. It was Erza's smile that made her remember why they split apart in the first place. She was insane, or still is, and don't want to harm her, thus leaving Erza alone. That is nice and all, but the build to it is lackluster. The connection between them is little to none in the entire fight, outside the fact that she wanted to enchant herself to a new body. I didn't see any more hints or anything that suggests her inner struggle outside of her wanting to live like a human. We're supposed to believe that this feeling has always been there. I understand the flashback is what draws them in, but it's so little that it's hard to buy it entirely. Therefore, I can't feel that sorry. If the flashback happened before this chapter, it may have some ground, because if entering the battle with that mindset, you can draw a connection to it and think, Irene may still have love for her. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and it only made for a pretty disappointing fight. You can say it was all over the place. It's a good thing she was newly introduced. I mean, imagine her being a longtime villain who has done tons of horrible acts only to end up like this. When it comes to Flash, it's a pretty good effort on capitalizing the moment and has a nice flashback that can be touchy for some. When it comes to substance, however, it's a mediocre and disappointing conclusion to what should have been grander in scope, with its far-fetched moments that didn't help to elevate the characters, questionable pacing and decisions, and anticlimactic end with its weak execution. It would be best for this chapter to be the worst of the year, because we don't want to think what could be worse than that. I'm giving this chapter a 5. It could have gone lower, but to be fair, Erza didn't really defeat Irene with the usual fist to fist or whatever she does. Instead, Irene takes her own life, and more a little bit logical than what could have been, but the problem still remains that everything felt so quick, felt rushed. It felt like it was going to get canceled, this series, even though it has no worries at the moment. So I don't understand why this all happened all in one go. It didn't come out as very satisfying as it Mashima probably wants us to believe. Did you find the fight to be good overall, or I just find it disappointing, unfortunately? I thought this fight would have actually been a little bit more interesting. Even though it is an Erza fight, it could have gone differently, especially when you have the tag team thing. But now this fight has been concluded, I could just say I was pretty disappointed, and even though it's not exactly the usual thing, it certainly feels like one. The next chapter most likely focus on Natsu, which should be good. I just wish that this chapter didn't come off the way it did, because now I just don't feel that much anticipated for the next chapter. My thoughts are told. Don't let yours on hold. Leave a comment below. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this and want more of this, subscribe to my channel and my world will be yours to stay. Until next time, take care.